Under Part 91, can you really take off from an airport with zero visibility and zero ceiling into IMC conditions? Let's talk about that for a second. 91.175 under Civil Airport Takeoff Minimum says that that's actually only applicable to parts 121, 125, 129, and 135. So it does remove Part 91 from that equation. I think that's where a lot of the questions and discussion come from is that there is no other area in 91 for Part 91 takeoff minimum. So for the part 135 and 129 and 125 and 121, if they do want to do a lower than standard takeoff than what's listed under 91 175, they have to get what's called an operations specification or an op spec. That requires additional FAA approval, and it also requires, at a bare minimum, initial and recurrent training to do those sorts of takeoffs. The FAA does recognize for Part 91 a zero-zero takeoff in the Instrument Procedures Handbook, but they guard against it. I think the important thing to note is that we're not talking about departure procedures. We're not talking about obstacle departure procedures or a standard instrument departure procedure. We're talking about the visibility in the ceiling associated with you rolling down the runway before you actually get in the air. Nobody's questioning whether you can handle the aircraft doing a departure procedure from an airport when you're in IMC conditions, or whether you can handle the aircraft in IMC conditions if you hold that instrument rating. I think the real concern and the real risk with the zero-zero takeoff is with any hazards on the actual runway. Think about this for a second. If you're in IFR conditions, what do you think the chances that you're actually going to hit another IFR aircraft that's at the same altitude and in the same airspace? I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying I think the risk is a little bit lower than you coming in contact with another aircraft or a vehicle or an animal on a movement area at an airport. The vehicles and the airplanes taxiing around an airport generally are not operating in the grass areas. They're operating in the same exact spots that you are, especially if it's at a non towered field. I think the risk is even higher. So I don't think anybody cares whether you can handle the aircraft in the air. I think the risk is really associated with the ground risk. Now, as far as obstacle departure procedures and departure procedures, I don't really want to touch on whether you have to or don't have to. What I will say is you are required before every flight to become familiar with all aspects of that flight from start until finish. If you know there's terrain out there and you know there's an obstacle departure procedure, and we know that you are required to avoid the obstacles, and you don't follow that obstacle departure procedure, number one, you could be in a really bad spot with an accident. Or number two, if you come in really close contact to an obstacle or terrain, you could be in violation of 91.13, which is careless or reckless. You knew that that terrain was out there. You knew what the obstacle departure procedure was, and you continued to not follow it. I'll see you next time.